It's time. And folks, if you're watching live and you tuned in on time, we started a few minutes ago because we're just eager to get with Russell Gilbrook. Russell, how are you? Thanks for taking time. Boy, have I got a story about you. Well, sort of.
I hope it's one of many.
It's family friendly. Don't worry.
I'm really pleased to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks. You know, it was, I think, at the 2018 NAMM show. You made a booth appearance at a drum company, and I just missed you. And ever since then, the world gets busy, life gets busy. From time to time, I hear your music, I see you online. I'm like, I gotta get a hold of that guy. Finally, you're here. So thank you so much to talk about. For those under 50, for those maybe younger music fans or people hiding under a rock, I got to give people a little bit of background about your pedigree because it's awesome. Folks, if you're not familiar, Russell has supported fellow drummers such as our friend Greg Bissonette, of course, Liberty DeVitto, who's been around for a while. He's worked with people like Chris Barber, Alan Price. He replaced Cozy Powell. If you're asked to replace a drummer like Cozy Powell, you might have something going on for you in Bedlamand, and also was featured on Pete Bardens' albums. He's worked with a guy named, a lot of people don't pay attention to left-handed guitar players with caps on their fingers, but a guy named Tony Iommi, Lonnie Donegan, John Farnham, goes on and on, Van Morrison, Tobias Sammet. What a weird combo of people. It says a lot about your drumming as far as genres go, but you also teach at the Musicians Channel on Sky Television, and you hold a position at Brighton Institute of Modern Music. So cool to hear those sort of things about a drummer. But some of the things we're going to talk about are not only your history as a musician, Russell, but your upcoming 25th release studio album, Living the Dream, coming out September 14th on Frontiers Music, and The Magician's Farewell. You've been a member since 2007, and I think this also kind of two things that solidify your greatness. One, if you're asked to join a band where Roger Dean ever created an album cover, I think you're on to something. He did the Demons and Wizards cover years and years ago, but also to be invited and to play with a band whose former members, among many others, but just some former members I want to mention, legends like John Wetton, Bob Daisley, Nigel Olsson, Lee Kerslake, Chris Slade, who's been on the show a few times, Ken Hensley, John Sinclair. How'd you squeak into this thing? Let's start with that. How did you get into Uriah Heep? How'd that happen?
Well, it's actually quite a good story, actually. Well, stories, the true story. I was doing lots of session work before I joined Heep and teaching, and did a lot of drum clinics with previous drum manufacturers and cymbal manufacturers and stuff. And I used to, my clinics went down really well, and I got invited back to certain shops to do it every year, one of which was in north of England, called a place called Hull. And that's where the late Trevor Boulder, the bass player with Heep, who was also with Spiders, one of the Spiders with David Bowie's band. He lived there, and there was a guy called Phil Oaten that used to run the shop. And every time I do a clinic, he'd invite Trevor, you've got to see this guy play, you've got to see Russell play, you've got to see Russell play. And because Heep was such a busy band, Trevor was always on tour, and he couldn't make it until this one time he made it. And of course, I did the clinic. And in those days, it was like 300 or 400, drummers there, which was fantastic. Great night. Trevor came up to me afterwards. He said, I have to admit, he said, I haven't seen drumming like that for donkey's years. You're absolutely amazing. He said, you're staying here tonight, aren't you? I said, yeah, I've got a hotel up the road. He said, well, if you haven't going to rush back tomorrow, come over my house. I want to have lunch and have a chat. So I did that. And all it was a chat, because he loved my playing. We talked about music, and we become mates. But it wasn't until about 7 or 8 years later that I got a phone call from Trevor saying, Russ, what are you up to? I said, well, the usual sessions and teaching and Brighton, the BIM college. Yeah. He said, well, we're having auditions for the band. I went, oh, he said, and I highly recommended you, but obviously the management have organised the auditions. You'll have to go through the audition process. I said, well, it doesn't bother me. I'm not frightened of anything. You know, at the end of the day, I believe in my ability and my personality, and you're either going to like it or not. So gave me the details of it, and I put the phone down, and I literally, no word of a lie, I thought, hang on a minute. Oh no, not another has-been old band that I'm joining. I used to do I was Helen Shapiro's MD as well as drummer, and then obviously I've got the Alan Price thing. And it was like great artists, but you know, at the end of their careers, I think not another one. I can't do another one. And then I made more research about it. Oh, hang on a minute. This is the real deal. This is a allegedly classic rock band that are out there killing it with, you know, massive festivals, massive arenas, smaller rock clubs in certain countries, basically 60 odd countries. Oh, well, hang on, this could be exactly what I need. So they sent over the live show and said, learn the live show. And what happened was they were holding auditions in London, a place that's not there anymore called Terminal Studios, very famous for lots of all the big bands, no matter who you were, used to rehearse there or easy hire. So it basically was 240 drummers that went for this audition.
Oh,
and
wow.
All of them were a bit of time wasters on the phone. They sussed them out. And it whittled it all the way down to the last 2 weeks of 40 drummers. So they gave everybody 5 songs to learn. So they gave the live set out, but they gave 5 songs for everyone to learn. They had a nice cross section of skills, basically. Obviously, the double-handed shuffle for easy living, which is a play for drummers that have got a bad left hand.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this happened. So I got asked, right, okay, can you make Wednesday on the first week? So I turned around and said, yeah, I can make the Wednesday on the first week. What time? 12 o'clock? Yeah, I'll do 12 o'clock. Boom. So they put me in. Well, I knew, because I'm being clever now. I knew I wasn't going to take that audition. So I let it go, and I rung them up on the Monday or the Tuesday. I said, oh, sorry. I said, I forgot I got a session in. Any chance of doing it for the following week? Yeah, what do you want the following week? Well, can I do the Friday? Yeah, you can put it in the Friday. I said, what, about 12 o'clock? I said, oh, well, actually, on the Friday, I've got a dental appointment at 12. But what time are you going on to? They said, oh, till about 4. I said, oh, so is anyone in them 4? They went, no. I said, oh, can I have 4? Yeah, you can have 4, thinking nothing of it. Well, I've craftily got myself the last audition. So they turned and said, all you've got to do is bring up your sticks. And said, no, I'll bring my own kit if you don't mind. No, we've got a hire kit there. I said, but if it's the last audition, I said, it doesn't matter, does it? I said, so I've now got my own kit on the last audition.
So strategic. Drummers, are you taking notes?
Yeah, right. Preparation.
Right. Yeah.
So that Friday comes about, and of course, little old Russell here doesn't turn up at 4 o'clock at all. I turn up there at 8:30, half hour before the studio opens, with a cup of coffee in my hand, and my ex-wife at that time. Waiting outside to get in, because I wanted to hear and see my competition.
Yeah.
And of course, they've got the headphones on and they're doing all this. And I said to my wife then, I said, sorry, I said, but they're not going to get the audition. She said, what are you talking about? I said, if they've got to listen to it now and practice now.
Right. How prepared are they? Yeah.
All I'm doing is having a cup of coffee. So, of course, they have a break lunchtime. They come up. Oh, hello, Russ. I said, yeah, I managed to get here early. Oh, that's great. Okay, we'll come in at 4 o'clock, whatever. So I go in at 4 o'clock. Of course, I know Trevor, so I'm setting up the kit. I'm very relaxed because I know Trevor anyway.
Yeah.
They've got management there. They've got the producer for an album waiting to record there. The crew are there. So I'm set the kit up. So they said, they have told me when at lunchtime, by the way, I asked them how it was going. They said, it's been a nightmare. You know, people can't do the double-handed shuffle. We have people who can't hit the drums. We have people who can't play in time. We have people who can't sing. Yeah, they had and you know what it's like when you're doing the same stuff with drummers going in. It can be very wearing. So they said,
and you're not doing it right either. I mean,
I'm not
that's a
doing it
whole
right.
other layer.
Exactly. So I'm setting up my kit. They said, have you learned the 5 songs? And I went, no. And their faces were drained. I said, I've learned the whole live set. They went, what? I said, yeah, I didn't bother learning. If I've learned the whole live set, we'll do a gig tomorrow if you want. And the whole atmosphere changed. It was almost like, thank the God for that. You know what I mean? So anyway, we set up.
You should have, just for the hell of it, said, except for the shuffle. I'm not fond of the shuffle.
I should have done. That's right. Damn it. So Mick is about to count the songs. I said, what are you doing? Hang on a minute. He said, I'm just going to count the first song here. I said, no, it's my job. And again, I felt them like, oh, someone's taking the reins. No, you know what I mean? It's all that bit. Because as a drummer, people don't realise you give off such an amount of confidence, authority, and safeguard to other musicians because you're taking care of the one thing that matters in every song. Tempo. Tempo. Because if it's too fast, sometimes you can get away with it, but a lot of the times if it's too fast, the guitar solo's now strangled. The vocal phrasing's now strangled.
Right.
Everything's strangled. So you have to be careful on what songs that you can actually pigeon a bit faster or not. So anyway, I counted the band in and we had a jam. The crew stood up. I got a round of applause from the crew. I walked round talking to Mick, obviously. And after 10 minutes of talking, I said, hang on a minute. I said, you're talking to me like I got the audition. He said, you have. Now we're going to go around a pub and get drunk. That's what happened. So, well, I said this when I was teaching at Brighton. I say it at clinics. I said, preparation is everything. I played within myself. I made sure I did everything that I could possibly do. And there was 2 ways of going. Do I copy Lee Kerslake? Because after 37 years, they're used to that. Or do I do myself when it's my time? And they might want that freshness and that difference to inspire them. And of course, I did it my way and they embraced it. And so did the fans. So it's been great.
That's awesome. There's so many great lessons in there. And it's a great segue to show a drum cam video of your playing live with Heep. Yeah, this is great. And we'll show some of this, folks. Watch for the section about a minute or so in, maybe not that far in, of some really great just fills on the toms and stuff. This is a really fun video. Check it out. We'll be back with Russell. Just love it. By the way, you should show that to your front of house mixer, because that's what it should sound like out front. The drums, and then there's something going on in the background.
Yes, I've always said that.
So 2007, another has-been band, and here you are 18 years later. Did you imagine?
I don't know where it's gone, mate. I have no idea. Oh, and incidentally, when I passed the audition, I was 2 weeks later, I was in doing pre-production for 2 weeks to be called the album.
For the album, yeah.
and then finished Wake the Sleeper album. We then had another week's rehearsal straight after that to learn the live show and go out and do the show straight away. So it was just full on. But I loved it because I was born playing the drums. I had great teachers. I was taught to play everything. And the thing is about the drum kit, there's two things what I tell people. I haven't found a volume knob on a drum kit yet. So all this business of not hitting the drums hard, I don't believe in. I'll tell you why. One of the ingredients that got me the Heap gig was that they wanted the drummer to really hit the drums hard. And wasn't because of the volume, it's because of the energy I was portraying. They wanted to feel the energy from the drummer. Well, you won't get energy unless you start hitting them. And Tony Iommi told me exactly the same thing with Cozy Powell, right? There's a certain amount of energy that comes off the drums when you start striking them. Especially when you're a big stage, you've got to fill that stage. It's not only the monitor system. Mick won't play within ears. Phil won't play within ears. A lot of the old school guys don't play within ears. So they vibe off the power and the volume. So you have to try and create and balance yourself with it. And sometimes it requires a lot of hard hitting.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I've never seen a drum kit look at me and go, can you only play jazz on me? Can you play rock on me? Can you play reggae on me? Right. No, it doesn't.
Regardless of the setup. Right?
You interpret what you want. So you need to love playing the drums, which means you love everything. You can't love metal and this. And everything's got an ingredient that serves your identity. And you could be missing out on the school of jazz or the amazing dance movements of Latin. I've incorporated an Afro-Cuban 6/8 on that Wake the Sleeper album, the first album I did, on a shuffle, halftime shuffle with a halftime with the backbeat Afro-Cuban 6/8. Well, if I hadn't have got an understanding of Afro-Cuban in a classic rock band,
right? You know, there's such great info because a lot of us gravitate, a lot of drummers and other musicians with other instruments too, they gravitate towards what they like. But if people look up to, let's just say, their superheroes of whatever instrument, sometimes they don't go and look at, well, what did Tony Iommi study? You know, well, who were John Bono's favorite jazz drummers? Because of that era, they didn't have rock drummers to emulate. They were learning, you know, from all the jazz greats. Max Roach does the bucket of fish that John Bonham borrowed. And you got to look at where where your influences come from to get all those tools to put in your toolbox. So it's such great advice, folks. You can't.
From the age of 4, I started playing drums really from the age of 2, but not properly. I was born with club feet. I was born with my feet upside down and inside out, and I had my complete ankles broken and reset.
Wow!
Right? And I was the first person in the world actually to have this particular operation.
Really?
Professor Moncrief was a famous, obviously, pediatrician surgeon, and I was in a famous hospital in London, a children's hospital, and I lived there for a year and a quarter after the operation, hanging up with my legs in a cast because they had no idea whether this operation was going to work or not. And luckily for me, it did. So I have ankle movement. I have to play double pedal, basically from the knee. I have to play like I'm running.
Oh, wow.
Luckily with my right foot, which is the better one, I've got a little bit more movement. So I can do a bit of a pivot. The left one, I can't at all. So I have to stamp, which is why I could never be in a metal band that requires me to play for 5 minutes at 200 BPM. You try running a sprint for 400 meters. You can't do it.
Right. Especially if your foot has no hinge at the ankle.
I haven't got a hinge, you see.
Yeah.
But I find ways to make my double pedal work for me. And I started having lessons at 4. I was earning £30 a week as a duo in a band, doing the clubs and bits and pieces in England, doing all the pop stuff back then when I was 6. I'd also started playing the piano accordion because my dad plays that. Now, it sounds awful, but my dad was a really good, like Jack Emblow, was a fantastic jazz accordion player. Wow. And I was a champion accordion player. At the age of 6, I won the under-10s and the under-12s. I was a real prodigy on the accordion. But
Wow.
as a kid of 6, I had to give up when I was 10 because I wanted to see my mates. I wanted to play football. I had drumming practice. I had accordion practice. It was too much for me. I wish I'd never given it up because I think that melodic side was a fantastic asset. And I still play piano today, is how I write some songs. So I understand melodies and chord progressions, everything like that, but not to the extent as I would have liked.
Right. Well,
But-
do you ever pick up an accordion, and does it, if you
No.
if you did, would it come back?
Not really, just bits and pieces. You know, I mean, it's been a lot of years, a lot of years since I've done it. But it's a very, very difficult instrument. A button this side, keyboard this side. It's not a twin button. It's a keyboard and a button. But
so wait, you couldn't play Look at Yourself on accordion?
No. I could do a double-handed shuffle though.
Oh, there you go.
So when I got schooled, I was schooled the correct way. Back then, it was the 26 American rudiments. And then I got schooled. My dad was heavily into jazz. My drum teacher was into jazz. So I had jazz right up until I was 17, 18 years old, till I got my first big gig with Alan Price, right, which moved slightly away from jazz. So I was playing jazz all the time. And it's so strange because people just see me smashing the crap out of the drums really hard, and they see me with Heep. They don't realise I played with Chris Barber for 6 years. I played with Howard Ashby, which is one of Duke Ellington's sax players.
Yeah.
Right? Dr. John. We've had Wendell Brunis, who is one of the trumpet players with Preservation Hall in New Orleans. Right, so I know my jazz. It's just that my direction, because of the state of jazz in the UK, I had to go down a road to earn money, so I did all the other stuff. I did Jesus Christ Superstar in the West End. I depped it when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
I got called to do a dep, so I went up there to do a dep, and it was the last minute. The drummer got ill or something. They phoned my teacher, who did a lot of deps in the West End. He couldn't do it, and because I was his prodigy, if you like, he said, "Oh, I'll get someone." So I went up there. And there I am with a little Coke sitting on the table, and the MD comes legging it out because we're on in an hour, right? Start speaking to my dad, and my dad went, "Hang on a minute, what are you talking to me for?" So well, you come up and do the dip, haven't you? He said, "No, he's doing it." He turned around, looked at me, and he went white because I'm a tiny little kid sitting there. Well, hang on a minute, this is a reading. Oh, don't worry, he can read it. And back then, I could read literally anything straight off. And of course, you know, it's got some odd time signatures, and it didn't bother me at all. I got taught how to read. Yeah. And he said, "Well, hang on a minute." I said, "It's okay, I can do it." He said, "But don't you want to look at the score?" I said, "No, I'll just sight read it." He nearly had a heart attack. And I did it because back then I was schooled to do it. And as a kid, you see, you don't foresee problems because you don't understand problems. You're not mature enough. I wasn't mature enough.
Life hasn't jacked you up enough to anticipate the worst.
When you're an adult and there's a bit of apprehension, it takes over your performance. Yeah. So that's why I try and explain to people, you've got to understand how important it is to nail your technique, to understand your own playing, so that when you play within your own playing, there's never an issue. It's when you're stretching yourself and now you're not concentrating on the right thing and you're waiting for the mistake, you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah, you get what you focus on.
Yeah.
Interesting. So fast forward, let's talk about what's going on with Uriah Heep. You got the cruise coming up, and you've also got the new album coming up. Address either one in whatever order you like.
No. Listen, the new album's actually Chaos and Color.
Ah, yes.
Living the Dream was the album before Chaos and Color.
Right, last September. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chaos and Color was the last album, and that was a couple of years ago now. And then this year, we're just about to start next month the festival, because festival season.
Right, summer.
Then we've got a small European tour in the fall. And then, in February, we come out and do the Rock Legends Cruise.
Yeah, out of Fort Lauderdale, I think it is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Who else is on that?
We've done about 4 times now.
Oh, that's great. Do you know who else is on that off the top of your head? You don't, no pressure.
I can't remember now.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and them. Oh, and those other ones as well, they're on it.
Yeah, and some of this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Do you like doing the festivals?
I like it. The crew don't like it, as we all know, but
Yeah.
I love it because, as I said, it's a chance to see some of your mates play, chance to see some new music, chance to see some new drummers. Because I want to learn, observe, and steal, like we all do, right?
Yeah.
To add to our armory, catch up if we can, if no one's got to rush off. The atmosphere of it. And I think it's great that the audience get to see band after band after band. And now they can have a proper comparison because it's straight off after each other. And it could do the world of good for a band and also destroy a band if you're not on form, you know.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just a headache, which I understand for the crew because there's no sound check. And always the problems happen, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of all the touring and traveling you've done, is there a place that you scan to look for on the itinerary when you get it that you hope or you want to see when are we going to blank because of fill in the blank, whether it's family or the people or the coffee or the venue or the whatever? What would the place and the reason be that you scan and get most excited for?
That's a tough one. I mean, the South Americans go nuts.
Yeah,
You know,
Brazil in particular.
Yeah, when we did Sao Paulo, we did it once at a festival. It went about 6 kilometers. There was 120,000 people there.
Oh my God.
And they go mental. I mean, they really do. They're so passionate, but they really like to be vocal with it. And as you know, you're a great drummer yourself. You've done it all yourself. There's nothing better than the people giving you what you want so you can give them what they want even more.
Yeah.
You have a battle. I give you more, you give me more. Then I'll give you more, and you give me more, and I'll give you more. And that 37 hour overnight on the tour bus doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
It's the best gig in the world. It's the best job in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and South Africa. Well, I did South Africa with Deep Purple and Wishbone Ash. 25,000 people, 3 gigs, 6 days. It was like paradise. Joburg was a bit, as we all know, but Durban and Cape Town, my God Almighty, it was. I thought I was in paradise. And not only was the gig great, the hotel great, the food great, it was just like this is just heaven. As
awesome.
As a little 3 gig thing on its own, that was great. But when we used to go to Russia, I mean, they were crying because. Don't forget, Uriah Heep was the first Western band to go to Russia in 1986.
Yeah.
1987. And they've never forgotten that, the Ukrainians, and the Romanians. And Heep were the first to do all of those kind of things where life was so hard for those people that they had to get the stuff on the black market. But the music, as we all know, this is why I hate the fact that music suffers so much, because music has as big a connection as a photograph. People keep photographs for a reason. They love the memories. The memories take them back to the exact time, and they like a good cry. They like a good laugh. They like to get emotional happiness. They like everything out of a photo. Well, they do out of music. Music gives people the same buzz, the same emotions. That's what we want. And so going back to your point, we've done 66 countries now, and they've all had their special things about them. It's just that the South Americans just tend to go a little bit leery, they tend to be more vocal than anybody else. The Greeks get a bit nuts, and so do the Italians. The Germans have always been fantastic. The Austrians, I can go on forever with the 66 countries, but I just love the fact that when we play, I can see the people, the enjoyment they get surpasses anything.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, That's there's a that's what's all about for listening to recordings and the records and stuff, but there's that's what it's all about for the live performance and that experience, the real-time experience. I'm still in my 60s. If I go see a favorite band, I do the same thing I did in my first concert, which was a flash in the pan band many people haven't heard of, but I'll mention Led Zeppelin. And it was like, there they are. Like, that's them. I've got their posters on my wall. I've got the record albums in my cabinet. And still, if I go see a favorite band that's been around forever, I still think to myself, wow, there they are. That's so and now I get to meet them like you're on the roster now, first time offender. You'll be back. And it's great. It really is. And that is really what music was developed for, not to record it. Long before recording it, what did we do? Humans played for other people to share that reason for the song, the enjoyment. And it's, food and music are what brings people together. And going back to the travel and the food question, what's the first country and food you think of when I ask, where have you been where you just fell in love with an indigenous dish from that place?
Wow. I've got to think about that one because I do like my food. Now, Bernie, our singer, he's the one that is most likely out of anybody to try the local dish.
Okay.
We'll avoid it a little bit. We might go, we'll go in a little bit like Japan. We'll go in for a bit of sushi, this, that, the other. But he will literally try the local stuff. I'm not really that brave. When I go out for food, I like to go out. It's my pat on the back. It's hard work on the road. Everyone thinks it's like a life of luxury.
Oh,
no,
you play it for free and you get paid to travel and put up with all the stuff in between.
Yeah, the gigs are. We're away from a family. We miss out on this event, this birthday, this wedding, this, you miss out on a lot.
Toilet breaks in the bus.
Exactly, everything, So my pat on the back is when we have a day off or 2 days off and I go out, I want to have a lovely bottle of wine, a great bit of food, nice chat with your mates and loosen up, and just relax. So I tend to bail out on the local stuff and just find I'm a big Italian guy. I love my pasta. I love my king prawns. I love a good old steak. South America was great because, you go to their restaurants where they bring over the steak.
Oh, yeah, on the spit. Yeah.
My God almighty, talk about having to tell them to stop. They don't stop unless you turn the
I love a good Brazilian steakhouse. Absolutely.
Oh, God.
Yeah. All you can eat comes on the spit. They bring it to your table. You choose. It's a great experience.
Yeah, definitely. And something as simple as when I go to Germany, I can't wait to have their salads. They put a lot of different stuff in their salads, and I just love it because I love my salads as well. I like to have a good contrast of everything. So I'm not as adventurous as probably some other people.
Yeah, that's cool though. You're very fit. What do you do to stay in shape and prepare other than drumming? Do you run, walk, lift weights? What's your routine? Because being on the road, even not as a touring musician, just being on the road for a while can be draining. And if you leave your regular routine, you have to build up a very good foundation, and that physical foundation helps our emotional foundation as well. How do you stay in shape and prepare yourself for all that?
It's actually my drumming, the way I play the drums, that keeps me fit. So if I'm on a big tour, after two concerts in, I'm there. I could do quite easily. If I had 150 days straight off, it wouldn't bother me. My first gig would be as good as my last gig.
Oh, that's great.
And half of it is obviously I've got a lucky body, But I, from the age of 10, I did martial arts for 20 years. So I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Kyokushinkai karate. And then I did a lot of weights in my early days. But the thing is, when you go on the road, you just haven't got the time to get to a gym.
Right.
There's always, the gym's, an hour and a half away, and I haven't got an hour and a half away. Or that gym's up there and it's got a couple of little running. You can't. You've got to do it at least 3 times a week to maintain a proper routine. And I just couldn't do that on the road. But because of the way I play the drums, that kept me fit. And obviously the earlier years has just, I think, given it a platform. But I do strategically work out, I won't get on the juice when I'm playing because I can't do. I love my playing.
Yeah.
And I'm a stickler for 45-minute warm-up before every show.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't matter what's going on. I don't care if there's interviews, anything like that. I don't care. I'm doing my 45 and that's it, because I'm a real strong believer that doing a proper warm-up saves injuries in the long run. It's not a case of you get injuries if you don't warm up, but if you don't warm up, over the years, things build up. That's when you get injuries.
Yeah.
Especially if you play fast and hard, your body needs you can't do the 100-meter sprint without warming your hamstring up.
Right.
Irrelevant to age.
What's your warm up like? Do you play on like a practice pad kit?
Yeah, I've got a practice pad, and I just bounce my legs doing 16s and then combinations, hands and feet, loads of hand techniques. I'm a bit controversial with my technique regime. You see, over the years I've come to realize that when you get to a certain standard, if you're good, I think you can take yourself on a journey and you find out that maybe this kind of aspect isn't working for you. So you move to another aspect that you find may be working for you. Then you start moving down that road, because practice becomes less and less and less when you're in a touring band, because there's no time. That is your practice when you're playing. But what you do find out is that as your technique becomes better and better, it's like hand technique. I tweak my hand technique when I play. I don't consciously do it, but I know that I do it. And I do it because it's required when I'm playing certain angles around the kit. Right. Now, I've studied with the American 26 rudiments, and I believe there's like 40 now. There might even be a few more. Well, I don't believe in the rudiments anymore. When I got to 25, I discarded them. In fact, I tore them up and put them in the bin. Mm-hmm. I believe in 2 rudiments apart from the buzz roll. I believe in singles and doubles. And I believe that everything is a combination of. Because a 5-stroke roll's 2 doubles and a single. A paradiddle's 2 singles and a double. A flam's a small, quiet single and a loud single. Right? 4-stroke rough is 4 singles that goes into 2 doubles when it gets to a certain speed, and so forth. So I concentrated on learning singles and doubles and got them really, really, really good. And now I only have to learn the phrase of the combination of doubles. So I cut down learning 26 or 40 rudiments in an hour's practice. So I concentrated in a half-hour singles and half-hour doubles, 2 things to get them great that allows you to play everything else. Yeah,
and the rest will work itself out because of that.
And that's my philosophy. A lot of people don't like it, fair enough. But the thing is, if it works for me, and if I put it out that it works for one other drummer, then my job as an experienced musician that's basically living the dream that other drummers want to do, if it works for them, I'm glad to pass on that advice. That's all it is.
Yeah, and that's the right answer. What works for one is the right answer.
Like the 4 grips. Everyone's going on about traditional grip. They're going about French grip. Well, they all work. There's great drummers that play with all the grips. So they all work.
Yep.
The only thing I've ever said about the traditional grip is if you're giving the traditional grip the biggest salute in the world, then rising right hand, not playing it then.
Right.
That's where it stops.
That's right. I love it. Russell, in the introduction, I mentioned to everybody a lot of the people you've played with in the past, great musicians, legendary musicians, and then you've been with Uriah Heep for like 18 years. In that first set, what is one thing you could think of that you learned from working with any one particular person that really stuck, that helped you through your musical career, whether the business side or as a drummer, as a musician? And then what's one of the biggest things you've gleaned from being a part of Uriah Heep for 18 years?
Well, I have to say, I've learned from every single one.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, a very important one from every single one, because I made it my point that every single one had something unique to give me. So when I joined Alan Price when I was 18, I was doing a show in the West End called Handicap, based on a character in the northeast of England. He wrote the film score for. I got hired to be the actual pit drummer. His drummer had issues and got fired, and Alan was taking notice of my playing in the pit and asked me to join the band. So when I first went up to the rehearsal room, dragged my kit in. He gave me a cassette tape of the live show. And Alan doesn't read music, and said, learn that. I rung him up after, I think it was about 4 days of listening to it. I rung Alan up. I said, oh, by the way, I'm listening to this live tape. I said, which part could me having my session head on? Which parts would you prefer me to play? And he stopped me halfway through and said, Russ, I've hired you to play the drums. They're the songs, you just play. I'd never heard that before because it's session, and in the pit, you're told what to play.
Yeah, it's very structured. Yeah.
So I turned up at the rehearsal room. I dragged my drums in, and I think I stopped for 5 minutes just looking at the room. I've never seen a rehearsal room with a drum riser that big in my life. It's an unknown territory. So I set it up and played. He stopped me after 16 bars. Are you going to hit the drums or what? Because I've already been told to keep the volume down.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, I'm in this big room now, and he'd be doing big gigs. So I did it again. Stopped me again after 16 bars. I'm telling you now, are you going to hit those drums or what? And I thought, fucking hell, I'm entering an area I'd never, ever gone before.
And you're 18.
And I'm 18, right? And remember when I told you about never seen a volume knob on a drum kit? Yeah, right? I'd never been told by anybody that there's a possibility of playing at a higher volume. All I've been in a controlled environment with MDs and recordings, and not being in that live situation where it's warranted. And of course, I had to tweak my technique to serve that purpose.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from that. I learned that I had to be creative on the spot because he didn't want me to copy anything. And I had to learn to hit the drums hard and create a vibe, keep the time, and understand his feel. And that completely transformed my whole way of playing.
That's great.
When I joined Chris Barber, I had to get my dad's records out and listen to Baby Dodds and all that bit and Ziggy Modelise to understand New Orleans stuff and to get that texture of playing Snake Rag all on the snare drum. Understand the feather bass drum properly, understand the swing, the bounce, the slow acceleration that they wanted in trad jazz. And where would I have got that if I hadn't have got that gig?
Right.
So I learned all that stuff that gave me control and touch and feel that I incorporate in everything that I do now. So that was a big chunk. When I joined Lonnie Donegan, right, again, that skiffle thing. I learned so much from the feel from him on the way he played his acoustic guitar, and he looked at me and dig in. I want it slightly to move. All that, big ears, big eyes, understanding, give the energy when it's needed, give the acceleration when it's needed. And all those things just go straight into the pot.
Yeah.
And I absorb it, add it, and then the more experienced you get, you bring the appropriate ingredient in to enhance what you're doing.
It's beautiful. Those are great samples from the many things you learned over the years. How about from playing with Uriah Heep? What has morphed, or what's been one of the huge takeaways?
I'll tell you that the greatest thing for me is, I think, to any drummer out there, this is one of the greatest gigs to do, because I can play what I want, how I want, and be myself. This is my time to be Russell Gilbrook in Uriah Heep. I wish I was born earlier to be the original drummer, but I'm not. And I've been, there's been some ardent fans that haven't liked what I do. I respect that. Of course I do. I don't expect everyone to like what I do, but I can't help the time when the business gives me a chance, and me an opportunity. I took the opportunity through all my hard work, skills and practice to win that audition. Heap come from that old school way where you play. I know when it needs to be simple, I play simple. I've got the skill to play complex, I play complex. They embrace it because it's expression. They come from a time when Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath and Uriah Heep, you can hear it in the music in the 70s. All those early bands, they just played. Yeah. It wasn't a case of, don't do that roll there, or don't do that. They just played and expressed themselves through the music. And I listen to the music and I feel things a certain way and I do them my way. And I thank the guys in Uriah Heep, they embrace it, they understand it, they like it. In some ways, it makes them play different. It enhances the songs. It gives it new life, new energy, a different way of approaching it, and they embrace it. And I think it's fantastic. And of course, what that's done for me is allowed me to be totally me. I mean, what a gig.
It's beautiful because it really has enabled you to take everything you learned up to that point and integrate it how you want, wherever you want in there, which has greatly affected their sound.
Like I said, I've got on that first album, I've got an Afro-Cuban 6/8, right? And on which album is it? I think it's on Waters Flowing, which is on Living the Dream, right? I was in a band that had a Zimbabwe guitarist in it. He told me to play the Zimbabwe way of playing the Afro-Cuban 6/8, which is 4 to the floor, boom, 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 boom.
Oh, wow.
They play 4 to the floor, the Afro-Cuban 6/8, and then the fourth quarter, you hit the backbeat, right? Well, also from them, I learned the boom, which is like an African rhythm. Yeah. I played that on my gong drum with my finger because the texture of the stick or the mallet was too hard, so I played it with my finger.
Oh, wow.
And muting it with the hand. Well, I had those ideas in here. I brought it to the table of this classic rock band, and it's there on a ballad with Uriah Heep as a heartbeat, me playing a gong drum with my finger as an African rhythm that was back here waiting to be brought out.
Right. That's great. Mozambique snuck into Uriah Heep music. That's great. One last question. My last question might be the most important question. And this is the Russell Gilbrook Fun Fact segment.
Hey.
In the slivers of time, when you're not writing music, recording music, producing music, rehearsing music, on tour, playing music, when you're away from music, give us a peek behind your personal curtain. What do you like to do when you're not doing music?
Me and my wife like going out for food. We like going out for just days. We like to spend time with each other. I'm a big golf nut. I haven't played for a while.
Really?
Huge golf nut. And I had a handicap of 5, so that's pretty good. Handicap of 5. And the good thing about golf was that when I went on the golf course, I literally just thought about the next shot. So I didn't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
No home life, no touring.
Nothing seeps in.
No, nothing. So because what people have got to realize is you need to reset the brain. You can't be keeping going full on, full on, full on, full on. You've got to have things to shut the brain off so that it can reset itself.
Amen. Yeah.
You've got to do it. And it could be a number of things. You know, I'm always listening. I love Mozart, right? I love Bach. It hadn't got to be drum orientated. You know, I said I grew up listening to, Sonny Payne's one of my favorite big band drummers.
Oh,
you know, I love Tony Williams. I got heavily involved in the Earth Mover album by Harvey Mason.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously when Spectrum came out with Billy Cobham.
Yeah.
And then I was a big Chuck Mangione guy. I used to drum along to Feel So Good. I used to drum along to, what's his name? Tawana Brass, Herb Albert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, here when I was a kid. Yeah.
That's all my background. And I get as much fun out of swinging jazz as I do as rocking any heavy groove, because it's something beautiful about creating a rhythmical platform for your rest of your fellow bandmates to sit on. You know what I mean? There's nothing better than that.
That's awesome. You mentioned, golf, and something that's really stuck with me is in the very first interview I did with Nico McBrain, in the first 3 weeks of Drum Talk TV being a thing back in January of 2013 at that NAMM show, he was very emphatic about warning people, don't play golf with Alice Cooper. He cheats.
That's right. He's bloody good and all.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did a Rock Legends cruise and Alice Cooper was on it. And on that one day when you bawled to go off, he'd arranged that we were going to play golf and we're going to play golf for money. As it happened, the winds got that bad, they cancelled our what's the
Your reservation to go play?
yeah, on the what you called it when you play outside on the boat?
Offshore? No, not offshore.
No, it's on the deck. On the deck.
Yeah, on the deck.
On the deck. The wind got so bad, our deck one got cancelled. So on that Saturday, when I was due to go off and play golf with Alice, they'd rescheduled ours to go inside, so I couldn't do it.
Oh boy!
But he's a great golfer. He plays off bat too, you know.
Yeah, if you listen to audiobooks, the book Golf Monster, which is narrated by the author Alice Cooper, it's how he got off alcohol and drugs as he became a golf fanatic, and the stories of him taking up the sport are amazing. But there's also the stories of him hanging out with the Rat Pack, Elvis Presley almost accidentally shooting him, showing him a revolver. The stories are just hilarious, and it's really good. It's worth a listen if you're into golf.
The one to watch on golf that takes everyone's money is Kenny G.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a really, really good golfer, but he's also a crafty little bugger. Apparently, that's what I've been told.
Really? Wow, I never heard that. I haven't played in a while, but when I played in the low to mid 60s. If it gets warmer than that, I won't play.
Wow.
If it gets warmer outside than the low 60s, I won't play though.
No.
It's the temperature. It's not my game.
They call it a fair weather golfer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome. See, folks, you learned so much, not just about Russell, but drumming, being a professional musician, how you put so many tools in your toolbox from every experience you have, widen those experiences. You can make that toolbox deeper and look at all that can happen. Russell, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and a few good laughs. And I still hear Gen X and Gen Zs typing away on these things on Google, looking up cassette tape. Like, what the
cassette tape? What's that? I know.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Hang on the line with me for a moment after we say goodbye. Folks, thanks so much for joining Russell Gilbrook from Uriah Heep and myself, Dan Shinder, here on Drum Talk TV. Thanks for following what we do, and we will see you soon-ish.